Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Shorty September 2025, a BookTube event designed to concentrate on smaller works. Books of fewer than 200 pages, maybe books of fewer than 100 pages. The short things that fill the interstices on your library shelves and that maybe have stayed there for a long time, like something rotting between your teeth. Maybe time to take one or two of those short books down and pay them some attention. Or in my case, a whole bunch of short analog books. I'm not doing any electronic books for Shorty September. I've recently been grappling more than usual with my physical print and paper book collection, including my mass market paperbacks. A lovely form of the book, a form that I have loved but that I can't comfortably read anymore. I do still read them because some things, believe it or not, only come in that format, but I was recently reorganizing my mass market paperbacks and noticed quite a few of them would come under the heading of Shorty September. So I've been reading and rereading those. It's been a lot of fun. And last night I reread from front to back The Tudors by Christopher Morris from the 1950s. Part of the English Civilization series. What was it? British Monarchy. The British Monarchy series. This is a Fontana paperback. It wasn't Fontana that originated this, though. I don't remember who it was. But in a situation like this, a scholar who is willing and able to do the work and able to do it fast would usually have been approached by whoever was doing the series to say, would you be interested in doing a volume for this series? A volume on the Tudors. You'll have fewer than 200 pages. This is not a doctoral dissertation. This should not be steep. This should not be scholarly. You can draw on all the scholarship that you've been doing anyway, but this should be for the general public. Now, a scholar who gets a brief like that, no matter what it is, I mean, there are ongoing series like this of short books with all sorts of things in their remit. So, like, for instance, if you get an object lessons book and the editor of that series goes to you, I don't know, because of your agent or because of the last book you wrote, and says, we'd like you to write a volume for our series on the history of the home computer. And once again, if you're an academic, you rub your hands together and say, hoo, you've picked the right person. All I need is $100,000 in 10 years. And the editor of the series says, no, I need you to write a history of the home computer in 100 pages, and I need it 100 days from now. And you're going to get about $100. That tends to winnow out some people. But if you say yes to that project, well, if you're a scholar on the period, you already know the limitations that you face. And the biggest one of them is that it is impossible to do a 160-page history of the Tudors. You can do a thumbnail. If you type in the Tudors in Wikipedia, and print out the main entry, it will not be 160 pages. It will be far less than that. But if you want to get into any kind of detail, you really can't. Instead, you have to provide the basic outline, and then you're free to do what you want. You can either provide the basic outline and a little more exposition, in which case you'll have written a dull entry in this series, or you can provide the basic outline and then quip. You can provide quips and insights to your heart's content. As long as they're interesting, and as long as you provided the basics of the Tudors, Bob's your uncle. You'll probably collect your paycheck, not that there's much of it. And as a result, sometimes series like this, no matter what they are, the Penguin Brief Live series, the very short introduction series from Oxford, no matter what it is, no matter what the series is, some of the volumes can be really, really good. And as Happy Chance would have it, the Tudor volume here is really, really good. I wouldn't suggest it as a book for you to take down off the shelf in order to learn that broader picture, that greater outline. This would not be the thing to do that. This first of all presumes, as most of them do, a greater base of knowledge than you would probably have if you'd never studied the Tudors before. But this takes you through the whole of it, from Richard III getting killed at the Battle of Bosworth Field, all the way to the death of Elizabeth. So Richard III is dethroned. He is murdered. His crown is taken from him in battle, the last time that ever happened, by the victor, who becomes Henry VII. Henry VII has a whole brace of children. A lot of them don't live. But he has two sons, Arthur and Henry. And Arthur is the Prince of Wales. Arthur is a smart, good-looking young man. It is expected that he will be king, but he dies. And his younger brother Henry takes over. And Henry VII, therefore, gives way to Henry VIII. Whereas Arthur might have been Arthur I. We don't know that. We'll never know that. Henry, of course, has the same type of problem, the Tudor problem with progeneration. He sires children, but they either are illegitimate or they die. One after another. Dead at birth or dead within the month. Never saw the hand of God so clearly. He has some that live. A legitimate daughter, Mary, lives with by his queen, Catherine of Aragon. Some bastards, one acknowledged, and two other children, a daughter, Elizabeth, and a son, Edward. Both Edward and Elizabeth come to the throne. Edward very shortly. He comes to the throne and very quickly dies. Mary comes to the throne, and Elizabeth comes to the throne. And so you've got the whole of the Tudor dynasty. Not a whole long thing at all, nothing like the 1,000 years of the Plantagenets that they replaced, but still. You have your rough remit in a book like this. And when I was reading through it, I was noticing some of the quips and witticisms here. Like, for instance, when the author is talking about how Henry VII hoarded wealth, especially jewels and gemstones, the author nods at Henry's status as a usurper, a successful usurper, but still a usurper, someone who took the crown by force, had no right to it. The author, when the author is writing about all of those jewels and gems, he says that they were also a highly portable form of wealth, and the king may have remembered that he might one day be forced to pack in a hurry. I like that line. When mentioning Henry VII's achievements, the author rather dryly says, "They were undoubtedly great, but they are not spectacular, and they are a little elusive, they are not always edifying, and they are mainly negative." Okay, Henry VII can't get a break. What about Henry VIII? In Henry VIII, of course, is dealing with the Reformation of the English Church, and eventually the break with Rome. And so the author goes off on a tangent about how dumb and illiterate and corrupt the church was before Henry broke with it. And there's this great moment, I've actually quoted this before in written work decades ago. It is by no means impossible to believe the story of an early Tudor vicarage of Trumpington, who paused in his reading of the lesson when he came to Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which is the last words of Jesus Christ on the cross, and said to his church warden, "Neighbors, this gear must be amended. Here is Eli twice in the book. I assure you that if my lord of Ely comes this way and see it, he will have the book. Therefore, mine advice shall be we scrape it out and put in our own town's name, Trumpington, lama sabachthani." Confusing Eli with Jesus calling on God with the Bishop of Ely. He's going to see his name in the book and want to take it from... Anyway, I guess you had to be there. Let's see here. This is a wonderful book. It is absolutely delightful. You have to know a little bit about the Tudors, I think, to really get it, to really get the full flavor of it. But if you do know a little bit of the Tudors, maybe you've read one book, that'll be enough. When we get to Edward VI, we are told it is arguable that potentially Edward was the ablest of all the Tudors. It is also possible that had he lived, he would have been the least attractive. But he didn't. He doesn't live. This author, Morris, is often fond, I notice in these notes, he is often fond of giving people their due, which not a lot of historians tend to want to do. Like, for instance, John Dudley, who is vilified in the movie about King Edward the Sixth for letting him suffer in order to rack him in order to get the device of succession changed. But this author makes a good point that at any rate, since the king was by no means the only person who succumbed to his influence, Dudley must have had personality or charm. Simple inference drawn from history, but often overlooked. The author has a weird digression here about idealism under Edward VI. He says, "It is as real a fact as any other that men hold ideals, and we have no right to assume that a man whose power rests upon them is foredoomed. Woodrow Wilson happened to be outmaneuvered, but Lincoln and Roosevelt were not, still less Mahatma Gandhi." What on earth the author is talking about there, I have no idea. But the author also has deliberate opinions. It makes me sure that he would have been fun at parties. Like, for instance, the revision of the prayer book that was instituted under Edward, where he says, "The prayer book's cadences rolled on sonorously until 1928. This well of English undefiled was poisoned by a clique of clergymen, and the Anglican churchgoer lost his birthright of listening to great prose." So he's not a fan of the revision of the prayer book. And let that be a note to all of you who might be interested in such things, that if you're in a used bookstore and you see an old prayer book, get one before 1928. Get one before the prose is revised. He has favorable things to say about Queen Mary I, Mary Tudor, known to history as Bloody Mary. He compliments her on her courage, and mentions also she was the only adult Tudor who was upright. The only adult Tudor who was with a genuine conscience. It is her tragedy, and it is the irony of history, that she was the only Tudor who failed, and the only Tudor who did her country indisputable harm. Very interesting thing to say, and he follows it up. If I remember correctly, he follows it up with, yes, she might well have succeeded had she burnt less heretics and beheaded more traitors. I can't really argue with that. That's actually really thought-provoking. Actually, that's one of the things that I'm praising about these little histories, is that the authors can often be free to just spin out with some opinion like that. Let's see here. So we move on from Mary to Elizabeth to wrap things up here. What quips did he say about Elizabeth? She had what amounted to a pathological dislike of descending from a fence. Let's see here. The chapter on Elizabeth is really good. It is even claimed that she once wrote a letter while dictating another, and at the same time listened to, quote, a tale which she made answer unto. That is a reference to Elizabeth's vast intellectual abilities, which most of the Tudors had. Gets overlooked in a lot of the others, but most of them had it. Let's see here. We're told, he quotes from one contemporary source that said that she could be grim in her anger, but then when she smiled, it was pure sunshine. Again, not an aspect of Elizabeth that we usually get. She often called the bluff of rebels or foreign powers when others had not seen that it even was a bluff. Good stuff. Very good stuff. And then it ends with a perfunctory list of a select bibliography. And that is all done in 160 pages soaking wet. So you get an extremely experienced scholar giving you all sorts of good quips about the Tudors. And there are hundreds more where those came from. About minor details, not just the monarchs, but the details of their reign. So, for Shorty September, ordinarily the idea is that Shorty September does not extend to nonfiction, much less history. But it does. It does. There are really good short books on almost every subject. So, and this is one of them. Boy, oh boy, I had a blast revisiting this last night. So I will revisit something else tonight, and we will reconvene tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.